Hello, we have a new product to test today. I say today, I got this from Gaff over at YourFPV before Christmas, but their weather's been bad since November. But finally, just for tomorrow, it looks like we've got a decent day. So I've got to get this thing into a quad and get it flown. What is it you hear? It is a VTX 3 watts. And it's from YourFPV, and it's kind of, I'm guessing, a sort of unbranded one because it's labelled as a YFPV 3 watt VTX. It looks like this. It's got a little fan in it, it's quite sizable, runs off IRC tramp, and in the box you get this MMX to SMA adapter and then this plug that plugs in and does all the stuff. It's got a 5V out if you want to run a camera. As it says, it takes IRC tramp for the changing of channels and power instead of smart audio, and it runs off 7 to 36 volts, so happy pretty much from 2S to 6S and beyond. In fact, that goes up to like 8S, isn't it? Something like that. Anyway, I'm going through this quite quickly because I want to get it installed, and I've only got till like this evening to get it sort of vaguely working and see if I can fly with it tomorrow. It's going to go in this quad, the reason being, hopefully it will fit. I've already got a Tank Solo Max in there, which is quite chunky. I've got 2 GPSs, obviously we'll take one off, but I'll see if I can configure this up, see if it generally works, and if so, I'll take it out for a flight tomorrow, where I will join you then after this jump cut. So we speed around the install, and it is the next day, and the sun is out. Still pretty windy, but yeah, flyable. Very wet underground, despite it being all grass. There's places where I just sink down several inches into the mud underneath, so it's a little bit deceiving. Hopefully we won't crash though, and let's see what this VTX can do. So I've just come to fly this after flying walk style, and initially when it was pointing into the sky like that, I was like, is the camera broken? It looks so bad. As soon as I got going though, and I could see the sort of, you know, the grass and more of a reasonable picture, it was fine. Again, I'm cursed by this RSSI DBM thing. I had this in the last quad I was flying. The DBM value seems fine. I just need to take this off. I'm just having a vague fly about at the moment just to check that the quad's okay, it's how I remember it, and the general picture looks fine. You can see we're on 1 watt, which is, I think it goes something like 25 milliwatts, 1 watt, 2 watt, 3 watt. So I didn't go on 25 milliwatts because I figured anybody buying this isn't going to fly on 25 milliwatts. I'll just go on a watt. I was going to test out rescue mode just to make sure that was fine before doing any sort of distance, but as it turned out I had to use it anyway. And that's because as I'm flying along, suddenly I got the screen tear issue that can happen if you're using rapid fire and you're using either the camera or the VTX or the combination of both is not standard, and rapid fire throws a wobbly. It's interesting that it always happens like a couple of minutes in and then it's fine, but rather than deal with that, I flicked it into rescue mode quickly, flicked out again when I got it, and then what I did is instantly land and then change rapid fire from the rapid fire mode to legacy mode. Legacy mode just puts in a very standard antenna diversity thing where it will just work with anything. So after that I took off and just did a rescue mode actually under my own control just to make sure it did the right thing, and you can see it turn around and basically start coming towards me. That is generally enough for me. As long as I know it's coming towards me and it's either going to crash into me or land horrifically on the ground, that's good enough. So I thought we've got enough here to try and get some distance. And when I say distance in this instance, it's not particularly far. We generally go around 1 kilometre up to about 1.5 kilometres, basically the extent of the field. But if you have a look at all my previous VTXs I've looked at, it's very easy to get a comparison because we fly the same route at approximately the same height, just out towards the sea here, and then we turn around again, and that way we can compare the picture. And I have to say, this particular VTX didn't impress me too much because it's fine up to about 500 meters, and then I felt it started getting quite noisy, and it's not what I expect with like 1 watt. When I use something like the YFPV and I fly at a much lesser power like 200 milliwatts, one thing I notice about it is the picture is extremely clean, and that's why I like them so much. So every other VTX that I look at basically comes up against that. How's it doing? How good is it in comparison? And although, you know, this definitely gets the picture there, it's just not a particularly nice picture. It's okay, but it is jumping about a bit, and there's a little bit of noise there. On this return, we've got a right sort of speckly bit, which I'm not a fan of. I feel it could do better than that. But yeah, it got there, and no doubt 3 watts would maybe clean that up a bit. I say maybe because we had a bit of a problem with this quad as I was flying around. All was feeling okay here. I was flying around. You see I've been going nearly 7 minutes, and as I turned here I had this weird sudden flicker which didn't make much sense to me. Again, I popped it into rescue very quickly just to get it back. Couldn't really work out what was happening because I wasn't really blocked by the tree. And then I noticed that despite me being on 0 throttle, this thing really wasn't coming down, which was, I thought, a bit weird. So I thought, I'd better take it out of air mode so I can land this thing. And then what I instantly forgot as I was still messing around with the throttle is that if I take it out of air mode and drop the throttle too much, then it will just plop down on the floor and fall out of the sky, which looks like that. There didn't seem to be any damage to the quad. It got a little bit wet, but I couldn't see any problem with it. It was just my fault for taking it out of air mode. So I gave it another fly, and it had these massive vibrations. So I quickly put it down again and had a better look, and then I found the issue. Well, I'm afraid the 3 watt test will have to wait for a little bit longer because I didn't notice it when I went down. But if I look at this motor, it's up and it's lost 2 of the screws somehow. Must not have been in tight enough. And I haven't got spares with me, so we'll have to wait until next time for that one. So I don't think the screws fell off on the crash. I think what happened is I was showing you the bit where it was sort of a couple of 100 metres down the field and we suddenly got a loss of picture. And after that point, when I put the throttle on 0, it wasn't coming down. I think what was happening is something had moved loose, or one screw had come out or something like that, and this was wobbling a bit. And what that will do is make all the other motors try and compensate for it. So where this is wobbling and going funny, these like, oh, keep it straight. And what can happen, especially in air mode, is you just end up with the motors going up and up and up, trying to compensate for this wobble. So when I was going 0 throttle, it was barely coming down. And I think when I put it down, it probably lost the last screw. That's what happens when you speed run and install. You forget to check basic things like, are the screws in properly in the motor? So I'll fix that up. And I will fly this at 3 watt just to complete the test. But what I'm saying about it is based on what we've seen on 1 watt so far, it's just not going to be as good. If we look at the Max Solo or any of the YFPVs, we can have a look here at 500 milliwatts on this one in the same part of the field. You can see how clean this is in comparison to the 1 watt power we were having on the VTX we're testing. So yeah, we could bung that up to 3 watts and it will be okay, I'm sure. It's just not as good. It just so happens that Gaff sells these on his store as well, and they're about the same price. So that's why I'd say, yeah, this is an okay VTX. It does the job, it works, but for the same money you can get something far superior. So I would say go with that one. Anyway, many thanks to Gaff from YourFPV for sending this along for testing out. I should also mention that he also sent this battery over, which I was flying with. This is a China Hobby 1200 milliamp hour 6S, and it's called Speedy Pete's drone. That was very good. You could see I was flying for 7 minutes there, not taking it particularly easy, and that was lasting very nice. It says it's 100C, so that's recommended. Anyway, hope that's been useful. I'll be back to fly this again once I've put some screws in the motor and just to see what happens with that 3 watt power, but that will come up when we have another nice day, so hopefully less than 4 months. In the meantime, I hope that's been helpful. I will catch you next one. Bye for now. Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.